John. It is now time for everybody's favorite segment, the Hirschenfelds. Dr. Philip Hirschenfeld is a Freudian psychoanalyst.
Certainly my favorite segment.
It's not your favorite segment.
It's my favorite segment.
On the
Absolutely.
show.
Yeah.
Now, how big is the fan club? Well, let me bring in Ethan. Ethan is the star of Thug Thug Jew on YouTube, which some people, I understand, have memorized word for word. How's your fan club, Dr. Hirschenfeld?
Since I've been on this program, it has diminished significantly.
No, I really appreciate you coming on this show because I'm not going to get into specifics, but
Don't do that.
a important psychiatrist just got into trouble.
I knew that this was not going to be avoided. This
Well,
news item.
No, because I don't want to. It's
No judgments. I'm just saying. I thought this was definitely going to come up. When I read that this morning, I was like,
Well, I thought how blessed I am that Dr. Hirschenfeld would come on this show, and things get said. I don't think things get said here that are, well, at least not during this segment. But things get said. What he said. Can I bring this up, or do you? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Ethan? What are your thoughts on this?
let me begin. If I may.
Yeah.
So I guess the chair of the Columbia.
Well, let's get your father's permission first. Is it okay to talk about this?
Permission granted.
Okay.
Permission accepted.
Isn't that what I say if I'm captain of a boat, to let people on the boat? Something like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Right on the boat.
All aboard. That's what you say.
On
Okay,
my show, it's all our board until you're here. Go ahead.
I had a pregnancy termination joke, which ended with all abort.
Right.
Okay. So anyway, the chairman of the Columbia Psychiatry Department lost his job, and
Well, he got suspended.
I think it was beyond that, but I'm not sure. But in any case, he said something ridiculous and offensive and misogynistic and racist on Twitter. My first reaction was, why does this guy have to be tweeting? What don't you have a good enough gig? You have health insurance, you have tenure, you have respect, you have an income. You also need attention. That's for the comedians and the people who don't have health insurance. What the fuck is wrong with you? You have a 401k, you have a house in Hudson County also. You have kids, you have tuitions, and you're tweeting? The fuck is wrong with you? Just don't tweet. Just shut your mouth.
Is it true that people rise to their highest need of attention and then they go away? You rise to the highest.
This is like the Peter. It's like the Peter principle of attention.
It's the show me your Peter principle, where people rise to their highest level of exhibitionism. Yeah. What is that about? What the need to? That's who I am. I need attention. I need let the chips fall where they may. I'll say something. If you don't like it, good. I got a rise out of you. I'd rather you like me, but.
It's that kind of gig. Now, Dad, you're in the same métier, but it's a very different gig. He's got this whole institutional and academic thing going on, and a political thing. Yeah. And if you have a gig like that, it's like being a judge. You can't have Twitter. What the hell's wrong with you? And then, as someone in your profession, in your niche of the profession, you would say, okay, what's going on with this guy? Yes. In a deeper way, that he has this self-sabotaging need. It's very self-sabotaging. He sabotages the woman, but it's also like, come on.
That being said, what he said was horrible. I'm not an African-American woman, so I want to be careful here. But it was more stupid than it was malicious. Is that fair?
I would agree.
Stupid, yes.
It was stupid and it was offensive, but I certainly would agree that it wasn't malicious. It
Right.
was dumb and offensive. But he wasn't using, and again, it was an agglomeration of words, freak of nature, that can be construed and can be intended to mean various things. But if you parse out the word freak, of course, and if you look beneath the surface of the phrase, you could impute some very pejorative motives to putting those words out there. If you look at it from the other angle, it's a way that someone could say, wow. Simply trying to say, wow. But he
Right.
said it in a horrible way.
He said it in a horrible way, but I'm not making excuses for him, and I'm not a black woman. So I'm speaking out of ignorance.
Nor are you a model.
Or am I a model of?
You're a model for certain things.
I don't
I'm
think.
not a model either. I do sniff glue.
What concerns me is he didn't take to Twitter to be cruel. He, in his stupidity, he actually thought he was. I think he thought he was saying a nice thing about how you. No,
A clever thing that would garner him more attention. It's all narcissism, is what it. Look at me, look how clever I am, or look how something I am. And why do you need it? Well, that's his problem. He needed it despite all these other things that my junior partner enumerated that he had.
But to David's point, in the most superficial read of what he said, he was trying to engage in this conversation about this woman's beauty and her rare beauty. But then you very quickly can get into that fetishizing of the other and territory that's very easily and quickly and correctly construed as racist,
right,
and misogynistic. He stepped in it. He stepped in it.
Now, calling one of what's changed, it concerns me because it goes against what I've said about cancel culture. That being, you don't get canceled for making you should not get canceled for making a mistake, for being stupid, for one of that you get canceled for purposely targeting a protected class.
I think you're absolutely right, and that was my other initial reaction was, okay, this was horrible and stupid. He needs to apologize. He needs to step away. He needs to do something. But then I instantly thought, Jesus, this guy's he's gonna have to fall on his sword, and his whole life is gonna be over. Then we've gotten to this place where you're right. I don't think there was malice there, and that should matter. It matters in courts of law what a person's frame of mind is when they do
Mens
stuff.
rea, I believe it's called.
That's right. Yeah, and it should matter. It should matter in these things as well. I know it's complicated. By the way, I want to say I was once also called a freak of nature, and it hurt me. And it was you, Dad. You called me that. We were driving to Boston from New York, and I ate an entire box of donut holes after a rest stop, which was easy for me. With a cup of coffee, I went there, and you said, "Okay, but."
To me, a freak of nature is somebody who doesn't eat the entire box of donut holes. That's.
But there was no malice. There was no malice.
Really apologize, and I am going to give up my job over it.
We should be allowed to say stupid things. We should.
Not today. We are not. We are living in a really screwed up culture in many ways.
But again, the word said, David, yes, that's why I'm saying he should have said that comment if you needed to. Say it to someone. You don't have to tweet it. You don't have to share it with every human available.
Again, white fragility and white men, and I know what I sound like. That being said, a little empathy for people who are trying to learn. I think that again, all the problems in this world are my fault. I accept that. I'm an old white man. Although some people don't think I'm white, but I accept the fact that white men need to step aside, that the world will be better without us. I accept that, but that's not going to happen. And so a little empathy. About 4 years ago, when was the Me Too movement? 2017. So this was about 2015, 2016. And I'm not proud of this. I was doing a stand-up show in Brooklyn. There was a woman comic who was about my daughter's age. She introduced me at an alternative club. Let's say her name was Nadine. And I made the mistake of saying, how about a hand for Nadine? I'm really ashamed to tell you this. I think I told this before. How about a hand for Nadine? Isn't she
By the
beautiful?
way, okay. I was going to say you didn't have to. I was going to relieve you of if you didn't want to say the thing that caused shame. But yeah,
I said, isn't she beautiful? At the time, I had been told, when my daughters were born, women told me every day, tell your daughter she's beautiful. Every day you need to tell your daughter she's beautiful, because she is beautiful and she needs to hear from her father that she's beautiful. So this is what I was told by women, that so many problems stem from fathers not telling their daughters that they're beautiful. So I never stopped telling my daughters that they were beautiful. I meant it. I never knew that calling a woman beautiful was horrible, because beauty is, comes from within. Like a Verbissene Punim comes from within. The ugliness, that's what a Verbissene Punim means. The ugliness comes from within. And I always thought a beautiful Punim also comes from within. So I never thought it was that bad. Well, I learned I learned my lesson that night in Brooklyn. Never ever. She said to me, and it went right to the bone. I said, isn't she beautiful? And she shouted, I'd rather you think I'm funny.
Right.
And I said, can't I think you're both? And she said, no. And I got sent to school, and it was like, okay. Like my knees buckled. It was, I could have voted for Trump in response. I could have said, how dare she talk to me this way? I'm voting for Trump. But
I wanted to just add on that, the issue of this doctor who had to resign over this issue. I think it also is relevant when we're talking about his state of mind. He did spend his career researching and treating people who are suffering from schizophrenia. So he's doing good work for the world, trying to repair the world, repair people's minds, help people. He's not a hedge fund
let me ask,
manager. I think that also matters.
But did Dr. Hurt? Go ahead.
It should matter, but not in today's climate. It doesn't matter. That's just the way it is.
But an argument could be made that that psychiatrists who thought they were doing well inflicted a lot of pain over the centuries. I think I read in that article that one of the first American psychiatrists enabled slavery and the oppression of Africans and African Americans and the oppression of the homosexuals, right up until 1971. Wasn't homosexuality a mental illness?
It was,
right, but not relevant, because this guy, I mean, if we're talking about this guy, I think we're not putting all of
right. I know. I'm just saying.
Profession.
Right.
I think.
Unless Dr. Hirschenfeld has something to say on this, we should change the subject, right?
Fine with me. Why are we talking about Ukraine?
What happened? You're from Ukraine.
I am.
What?
You
Your relatives are from Ukraine.
My grandfather, yes.
Really?
Yes, Sam.
What? I thought he was from the Carpathian Mountains.
Ukraine, the Carpathian Mountains, Ukraine. Absolutely.
Get out a map. David, get out the atlas. I think that's Romania. I thought he was Romanian.
That was my other grandfather.
Jesus, how many grandfathers did you have?
5.
Most of them come from either Kiev or Kirak, the other.
Curacao, it's pronounced Curacao.
He came from Litovsk.
And were there pogroms there?
Yes.
And do we have did Grandpa have happy memories of Ukraine? Were the Ukrainian people?
No, he didn't. And when he was 17, he picked himself up and walked to Bremerhaven, got on a boat, and never looked back.
You didn't miss the famine.
He did. No, he didn't.
Did he miss the soup? Nothing.
Well, we got a couple of things wrong on this show about Ukraine.
Uh-oh.
We thought he would stop with Crimea. That's what we said back in 2014. We said that, it's primarily a Russian, Crimea is probably, mostly Russian. They welcome it. We said, what is it, Donetsk and was it the Dobron region that the two republics are from? We said on Monday's show, he just wants to take the Sudetenland.
No, he doesn't, because he is personally identified and always has been with the Soviet Union, not with Russia, with the Soviet Union. And this was a personal humiliation to him when the Soviet Union broke up. And people will go to insane lengths to undo personal humiliations.
Yeah, those kind of breakups can lead people to do crazy things like watching all 9 hours of that Beatles documentary. I say just get over the breakup.
He wants to get back. He wants to get back to where he once belonged, get back. He wants to go acoustic. It would be sort of, so it's reactionary. It's kind of like the South and the Confederacy losing a way of life where perhaps some of us can't understand how the South clings to.
It's more than a way of life. It is a way of life, but it's more than that. It's your identity is mixed up with, your existence is mixed up with. Because your South or your Soviet Union is going to be immortal, that you share in that immortality.
Well, I think that's certainly part of what's going on here. That megalomania, his thoughts about how he's going to be remembered. He's going to be remembered as he thinks, as the uniter, the return to greatness for Russia, which, good luck.
It's something that's, in the true sense of the word, alien to me. I don't understand, because I'm an American, I don't understand why someone would be proud of being Russian, why somebody would be proud of the Soviet Union, why if you're a Russian speaker, you would care about Russian-speaking people in Ukraine, why you would be proud of a Soviet empire that spread across parts of Asia and Europe. And you're saying that's a nationalism that not just Putin has, but he shares that with probably half the country, half of the Russian people, right?
I don't know how many he shares it with, but there are other people who feel that way, but not everybody. The people
You know,
who demonstrating against him don't share that.
it's very similar if you look at the population here in our country. Some people like to live in an apartment. Some people like to live in a house. And the people who live in an apartment, they don't understand why is it so important to have a yard. But the people who live in the house and they need the yard is their whole thing. It becomes a huge part of their identity. Also,
then
people who want, I have a loft. There's only one room. I like it like that. Like the people who want 12 rooms, that I don't understand. I'm with you. Why do you want all those extra rooms? What does that do for you?
what
It's just
about
more,
people
you got
like me who live in an apartment but want to live in a house out in the country?
well, then you gotta
Invade.
wage war. You gotta invade. Yes, yes.
What do we feel? I've noticed when he said, "Don't mess with us" today.
Yeah.
Did he say that?
Yeah, do
We've
not.
got nuclear weapons.
Wait, did he say don't mess with us? We have nukes, or he said don't mess with us. ...
We have nukes. We're a nuclear
Oh.
power,
Yeah.
and
Again, he's bluffing. But again, I'm the guy who thought COVID was going to last a week.
Dr.
My
Hirsch,
instincts.
I don't know if it's because of my generation, but when I read that, intellectually, I go, we just left Afghanistan with our tail between our legs, and but on a visceral level,
Yeah. When I heard Biden's speech, I was like, yeah, kick ass.
So we're being manipulated, right? They know this is as old as the Bible, right?
Yeah. But I think Biden, maybe I shouldn't say this on this show, but I think Biden is doing a pretty damn good job, as good as anybody could do.
I happen to agree, and the fact what got me rah-rah-rahing emotionally during his speech was his talk about the strength of this coalition. That there are a lot. Putin is up against many countries united in the idea that he's a lawbreaker now and he's behaving in ways that he shouldn't, and he'll have to be punished for.
Just not. You're up against a coalition, and you will pay a price. Just not here.
Just not now, not today. We'll talk. We'll talk in March. It's a little cold. We don't.
Right.
I don't have good reception here, but we will talk when I'm home.
Appeasement. When you look at Chamberlain, Lord Halifax, the people who were against Winston Churchill, who didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry to. Please,
No.
Can you? I just wanted to say that people are curious about why they didn't include the SWIFT banking system in those sanctions. But I understand, because I used to have to use those when I would get paid by these Italian theaters. It's extremely frustrating and difficult to use that SWIFT thing. The SWIFT thing, just engaging with that thing is a punishment. That doesn't cost you. It's these codes you have to use to get paid internationally. So yeah. So I say, yeah, let him continue to try to use those SWIFT codes, and it takes years off your life. Sorry, you were going to say.
Well, I know you were reading about, 7 days that changed the world, Hitler declaring war on America. When you look at Chamberlain appeasing Hitler, the Munich conference, weren't they really just trying to buy time? Weren't they just, they began to realize too late that Hitler wanted Poland and the rest of Europe, but they didn't have the army to take on Hitler quite yet, and they were just kind of stretching this out by appeasing him?
I am no expert on this question, but it's my sense that Chamberlain was really deluded and that he thought he had brought peace in our time.
Right.
I was actually, I had a basketball tournament that week in 11th grade when we did that subject. So I don't know anything about it. I missed that whole topic. So,
You want me to make
and,
stuff
and,
up?
and we lost the tournament. So I don't know the history and we lost it. So
Fear. Is Putin the bogeyman that we need to?
is it bogeyman or boogeyman?
I've heard both.
I have hope. Lately I've been hearing bogeyman. It's interesting. Anyway,
And it's champs at the bit,
that's right.
not
And
chomp at the bit.
you
champ.
get quashed and you get quashed. You don't get squashed. Apparently.
Right. A horse is a champ. The bit is in the mouth, and that horse is a champ at the bit. That's where it comes from. He's not chomping at the bit. Champs don't chomp. They have too much class to chomp. They have manners. I forgot what I was talking about.
We're educating your audience, which is what you're supposed to be doing.
Right. Could Putin? He can't be presented to us as first it's Ukraine, then it's us. The American
No,
people.
first it's Ukraine, then it's Moldova. That's for sure. And then I heard another very smart guy say that China's watching this very closely.
Oh yeah, vis-a-vis Taiwan.
Vis-a-vis Taiwan. If we bungle this one, then they're going to feel emboldened to take on Taiwan.
Well, then we can finally take Aruba. That's the silver lining. The silver lining.
If we were talking in 1939, 1940, what do you think we'd be saying?
Baba, goo, 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 baba.
All right, but if we were in a time machine,
Yeah.
what would we be saying? I could see being an isolationist. I could see saying, really, we're going to send our blood and treasure over to Europe to help Great Britain and Belgium and France after all the crimes they've committed in Africa, in Vietnam. I mean, these are colonial powers. Why do we have to defend? I could see an argument being made not to help these countries.
A lot of people did make those arguments. They were not our kind of people, however.
We got to help them, basically, because all the good recipes come from there.
Yeah. I think you may be right. I think Biden, I think Biden is, he said he's going to invade. This is going to happen.
Yeah. And he was right.
Yeah. And we were wrong here on this show. I poo-pooed it. Well,
you're a big man for being able to admit that.
Yeah. All right. Dr. Philip Hirschenfeld, thank you very much, as always. Ethan Hirschenfeld, why don't you plug some gigs? You're feeling better, right?
I'm feeling quite a lot better. Mystery bug, viral, bacterial, we don't know. COVID, no, based on the swabs, but who the hell knows? But I'm feeling a lot better. Gigs, yeah. Send me a message. I'll send you info on gigs. And meanwhile, March 13th, episode 15 of this season of SVU, Law and Order SVU. My episode's coming up. Yeah.
Now, is March Madness? Hang on, let me do a joke.
Oh, sorry.
Is March Madness your father's busy season?
That's it. You know, speaking of his father, what I did this weekend is listen to Thug Thug Jew yet again. And I'm telling you, every time you listen to it, it's really funny.
I don't know if you know this, but your kid's pretty effing funny.
Yeah.
Not an objective opinion but thank you, Dad. And
Well, for me, it's an objective opinion.
It's more objective.
It hurts me to say it. I'm not proud that you're so brilliant.
Thank you. Play it backwards, and there's some secret messages.
Because John is dead, right?
Well, I'm not going to give it away, but play it backwards. If you liked it forwards, you're going to really like it.
Thug Thug Jew, Bull, Red Notice.
Bull was on Red Notice. There was some great stuff and some upcoming stuff.
This is you. Yeah. This is you during a pandemic. Imagine you during an endemic.
Yeah. Imagine me. Yeah, and during a typhoon. Not to mention during a natural disaster. I book during a natural disaster. Yeah, during the arid season.
What do you prefer, typhoons or hurricanes?
I like typhoons better because they're open air.
We'll end on that. That's good because that is the difference between a typhoon.
That is good. Yeah.
Comedy. What is it? Comedy. If you slip on a banana, it's funny. If I slip on a banana, it's tragedy. That's why the typhoon joke from the doctor is so funny. Thank you, Dr. Hirschenfeld. Thank you, son of Dr. Hirschenfeld.
And let me say thank you to both of you. And also, all joking aside, let's hope that things don't get way worse in Ukraine, and let's hope that over time they can mount a resistance and send Putin packing.
Yes.
Okay.
Send luggage to Ukraine to send
to Putin.
Funny. Thank you. You're listening. Thank you so much. You're listening to the David Feldman Show, davidfeldmanshow.com. My old